Hi, I'm home. Still looking a little rough. I haven't hit the shower. Kitten is very happy that I'm home. But I thought I would come live and... Hey, kitten, come on. That's not nice. I thought I would come live. Sorry, I thought I would come live and kind of talk about what we went through and what happened and answer some of your questions. So, Mother's Day morning, I had no warning. I had zero idea of anything was wrong. All my tests through the years, my cholesterol levels, my high blood pressure, all of that was all normal or negative or whatever. Like, no, I had zero indication. And I had gone, it was about 8 o'clock, it was about 7:45. Dawn was already up. We were getting ready to go to wake up for the day and get ready to go to my brother's for Mother's Day brunch. And I went to the washroom, and when I came back out to the kitchen, Dawn was emptying the dishwasher, and I went to go say something to her, and I grabbed my chest and winced, and she asked me, "Bro, you okay?" And I said no. And I went and sat down where I am right now, and all of a sudden the nausea hit, and so I went running back to the bathroom, and no sooner I was back there, it felt like every pore in my body opened and turned on the sweating full force, and that the nausea got worse, and that's when I had the inkling this is a heart attack. And so in between the shortness of breath, I called out for Chris, who was sleeping in the next room, and he finally came because I woke him from a dead sleep. And in between breath, I said 911, heart attack. And he's like, "You're kidding." I said 911, heart attack. So he called at 8:04. I came back out to the living room and grabbed my old orange Tupperware, if you know, you know, and sat here breathing, trying to get this pain to go away. So for me, I had several elephants on my chest that were stabbing me. And I also had sharp pain in the same spot on my back. My neck hurt. I was so diaphoretic, which is a fancy way of sweaty, that I was dripping into the bowl nonstop. Very much shortness of breath. Both of my arms were on fire. My hands were numb and tingly and felt funny. And at about 8:30, 8:40, because our ambulance came from Brandon, and I know Cindy's gonna get on here and complain that we do have an ambulance service just off the base, but unfortunately they don't treat Spruce Woods. They are strictly for military, or unless Brandon or another fire department calls them out. And they actually had a hard time sticking the leads to my chest because I was so sweaty. And they'd wipe, and by the time they'd stick, it would slide. So they were getting frustrated. The dogs were beside themselves because there's new voices in the house. And, you know, animals feed off of energy, and poor Bear was a little traumatized. And finally they put a port in my arm. They gave me 2 aspirin tablets to chew to get into my system. So honestly, going to the store and picking up some baby aspirin or 81 milligram aspirin to have on hand is always a good idea. That is one medication we didn't have in the house. I had a massive headache, and we got me stable enough and they got a few reads off the leads. I think it's called an EKG or ECG. And we got into the ambulance. And they checked me out in there for a few minutes, and I could feel that Chris and Dawn were watching through the window, kind of panicked. And finally we took off. Lights and sirens all the way to Brandon, to the ED. And I was very, very sleepy, but still awake. I never lost consciousness. In a lot of pain. And once they got me stable, I got moved upstairs to 500, and the rest of Sunday was good. Everybody joked because my family handles crisis with jokes. Couldn't you pick a better day than Mother's Day? I was like, well, everybody was home. Monday I was good. And then Monday night, about 8 p.m., things took a really big turn. Now, I knew by pretty early Monday afternoon, I wasn't going to St. Boniface Monday or Tuesday. They were too full. Huge shout out to my nurse, Yulia. She's either Ukrainian or Russian, and she's just a hoot. And she was amazing. And if, God forbid, you ever have to be treated, my nursing team was amazing at Brandon Hospital. Although I'm pretty sure Monday night Fallon was ready to throw me out. Because every hour, almost on the hour, I was on my bell asking for something. Pain relief wouldn't last more than an hour. And by that point, it felt like I had been kicked under both. What it honestly felt like, and what I described it to her, is it felt like I fell forward on my hands and jarred my body. And so my entire, like if you hug a pillow, all of those muscles, all of that hurt 10 out of 10. I'm not one to ever have 10 out of 10 pain. And at a couple of points, I told her it was 12 out of 10. It was the worst pain I had ever felt in my entire life. Through the night, I had a couple more attacks, very much like on Sunday morning. And I begged her, I was like, why won't the pain stop? And she's like, honey, I don't know. So we made it through the night. They didn't do more EKGs through the night, or lab work, because we knew what this was. And I was already going to St. B's. So Yulia in the morning was my nurse again, Tuesday morning. She only put up with that nonsense for about an hour. And she came in, and with her little accent, she's like, Yulia called St. B's, and she tells St. B's you go. And so I think the ambulance was there by, I don't know, whatever time. It was after breakfast. And breakfast broke me because I went to go open up my syrup for my waffle, and my thumb went into the syrup, and that made me cry. It was ridiculous. Before we left, Yulia had asked Dr. Visser, who is my doctor here in Brandon, to up my pain meds from morphine to hydromorphone. And so she had given me something in the morning, and it made me quite nauseous. And I remember her telling the paramedics waiting that, oh shoot, this morning we gave it to her. Maybe we do gravel first and then we do this. So she put in gravel, she put in the stuff. I'm on the stretcher. We're getting wheeled out. We're by the desk. They're waiting for the package to take with us. If you've ever been in the hospital and conscious, or you work there, you know what I'm talking about. And all of a sudden I looked down and I'm like, I really have to pee. And the guy seemed a little annoyed, but he's like, well, let's do it now instead of on the road. And I got back to my room. I went to the bathroom, came back out, and instantly grabbed my basin and puked. And then they went, uh-oh. And I'm like, I really don't feel good. And they're like, yeah, let's go. So grabbed me a fresh bucket and I took it with me. And I was good most of the way. At one point, because it was so windy, the Ambo was doing this, and of course you're watching backwards, which when you're already nauseous doesn't help. And I was like, oh, that guy's kind of a jerk for not getting out of the way. And she's like, honey, I got something to tell you. And I said, what? And she's like, we've had to upgrade your status. I said, oh. And she's like, we're going lights and sirens. I don't think we were past Carberry. Or we were just past Carberry, almost to Portage. And I said, oh, okay. And she's like, you're not good. She's like, I'm not going to lie to you. You're not good. So we went lights and sirens in. At one point, she did tell me we were on the other side of Portage. And I want to say it was around Eli. Because I remember texting my family and saying, they've upgraded, we're going lights and sirens. And we, at one point she gave me fentanyl. Now, hydromorphone and fentanyl I've had before. I've never had really too much of a drug reaction to anything. But I have had so much drugs through the day and through the night, just trying to get me some kind of relief. By the time we pulled and parked at St. B's, my pain relief would only be about 5 to 10 minutes. And the guy was the driver. I'm so sorry. I don't know their names, but they were amazing. And he opens up the door to the back of the ambulance, and I looked at him, like we locked eyes, and his eyes went wide. Mine went, I grabbed the bucket and I puked all the way into St. B's, all the way through all the twists and turns to the cath lab. And they asked a whole bunch of questions, and nobody took the time to explain what was happening, what was going on. They were quite rushed. They were quite rude. I know at one point when I was I wasn't put out, but I was heavily sedated. I know he was telling me about the procedure. Why? St. B's, cath lab. Why do you tell your patients when they are so freaking high about what they went through? Could we think that through? Patient care. Basic patient care. I get very worked up talking about my experience in St. B's because it's not a good one. And before I left, I asked the ambulance, the Dr. Visser, and Yulia, and there was, I think, a student nurse or a healthcare aide. I never did catch their name. It's kind of a blur. Do I need to take my glasses, my phone? Like, what about my stuff? I don't have a patient bag to go. No, honey, you'll be back tonight. Cool. So I went with nothing, literally the gown on my body. That's it. And my phone, so I could keep up to date with my family. And I had the procedure. When I woke up, I had no pain. Nothing. I'm like, okay, that's the drugs. No, I still, talking about St. B's, I get a little bit of pressure, but I have no pain. And they kept warning me that I would have pain. I think they called it stretcher pain, because they went through my radial, here. They went through my radial artery. Apparently they can go through your groin, and thank God they didn't. And I do remember waking up and having 98 to 99% in my head blocked. I read the report yesterday when I got back, and it turns out that part of my LAD artery was 99% blocked, and the midline was 100%. The heart attack I had is nicknamed, a very old nickname, called the Widowmaker. Usually 40-something-year-old men back in the day would have this heart attack and drop dead. Suffering and surviving a Widowmaker heart attack outside of hospital, there is a 6% survival rate, from what Dr. Visser told me. It's only 12% if you're in the hospital. So yeah. Don't ignore the signs. Well, at St. B's, I kept asking when I was going back. And I know when I got moved up to the room that I posted views of, they kept telling me, you're on the next one, you're on the next one, you're on the next one. And I'm in touch with family. I gave my cousin permission to get updates because she is our medical guru. And FaceTiming her, I knew this was bad. She wouldn't really say it, but I knew from her face that this was bad. And at one point, whether you believe in the woo-woo or not, I looked over and my dad was sitting in the chair in my room. I miss him. This is the first medical thing that I've gone through that he hasn't physically been with me. Wednesday, I woke up feeling great, excited to go home. And they kept bumping me because I got too stable to transfer. We were joking last night. I'm surprised I didn't come back with a verbal violence alert. Because about 5 p.m. that night, I lost my shit on the nurses. I said, why am I still here? I was told I would be back last night. We're promised tomorrow night. I need to be there for my daughter. Like, this is ridiculous. So when you come on to my floor in the hospital, which I hope I never ever see you, even on 500, when I got to my room, all the same basic things. You have your kidney basin in case you're nauseous. You have your box of Kleenex. You have a pair of socks, new socks, hospital socks. You usually have a cup full of ice chips and ice water. They brought in the food tray Tuesday night, and I'm like, get it out. Because I was so sick. And I got mad. And Mandy and I FaceTimed that night because I was so upset. And she talked me down. And I called Chris and I said, be prepared for if I don't leave tonight at midnight, like they keep saying, You better be prepared to be here at 7 a.m. to pick my ass up and bring me to my home hospital. I kept saying I want to go home. I knew I wasn't allowed home. I knew I needed to get back to my home hospital. And they kept fighting with me. You're not going home. And I said, yes, I am. I was told I would be back in my room Tuesday night. Anyways, 6:40 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, or quarter after 6, whenever I woke up with a headache from the stress and from all the crying. So I rang my bell for some Tylenol, and I said, why am I still here? Well, we don't know. I don't think you're going today. I said, like hell I'm not. And I posted my story to social media, which a lot of you saw, and I called Chris at 6:40. I woke him up. I said, come get me. He's like, are you allowed to transfer or travel? And I said, Chris, they keep telling me I'm too stable for a plane or for the ambulance. So waiting for stretcher services, I could be waiting here forever. And one of my other friends, who's an amazing nurse at St. B's, said that there was a lot of patients down in the ED waiting for transfers out. I was like, I don't think I'm getting out of here. And he's like, okay, I'm coming. So he woke up Dawn. I called him at 6:40. And by 7:19 in the morning, they were almost to Carberry. They finally got to the hospital after some hiccups at 10 o'clock. And I think by 10:45, I was on my way back to Brandon yesterday. We did make a pit stop off at home so I could wash my face. They never gave me shoes or slippers or socks or anything. So I'm wandering the hospital blind, trying to find the carts that have the fresh gowns and have cloths and have all the things just to make myself feel like a human. So when I say that they didn't provide basic patient care, I'm not fucking joking. Basic necessities. Basic things to make us feel human. That did not happen. While I was at St. B's, I got a new roommate. She came in from Dauphin. And because I was messaging my nurse friend, she's like, if you're stable, you fight to have a safe discharge. Because they said I needed to sign AMA, which is against medical advice, to travel back to Brandon because the doctor didn't want to take the liability. It's like, but if I'm safe for transport, why couldn't it be a safe? Called my doctor in Brandon. I'm sure he'd take on and not have me sign AMA. They refused. So when I got back at 1, from 1 o'clock or 1:30 until 2:30 in Brandon Hospital, because I had a port in this arm, right here. You can see my new bruise. St. B's never flushed it in the 2-3 days I was there. So it really hurt getting that drain flushed or that port flushed. And they had given me all this paperwork, didn't go over it with me. I asked 7 different people to explain what I went through. Nobody had the time. Nobody cared. But in Brandon, in 15 minutes of me asking, my nurse is like, I'm going to warn you, St. B's are the experts. She's like, I may not be able to answer all of this. And I'm like, cool. I only had a couple questions. Most of this I understand. And we went through all my questions and I got them answered. And then Dr. Visser was in about 15 minutes later, because there was one part where what was her name? Jen. She said, that's a doctor question, because that one I don't know. I don't know what those stand for. I know nothing. I'm like, cool. I had coworkers and colleagues from other floors coming up to my room and welcoming me back. The clerks are like, you're finally back. We never lose you guys that long. But remember, in St. B's, I had that new roommate. The doctor, her doctor, which was a different one than I had in the cath lab, actually wrote in her chart, because the nurse told her, patient to zonk to talk to, but I talked to her. Mind blowing. Mind blowing. I actually told her to file a complaint about that to the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and I might call them on Tuesday too. But they were not happy that Chris was coming. Now my nurse changed her tune on Thursday when I told her I would never treat my patients this way. And she's like, are you a nurse? And I'm like, and what if I was? Well, then you know how this goes. I'm like, actually, I'm a healthcare aide on a post-surgical floor. She's like, we don't deal with you people on this floor. You're supposed to be back. I'm like, then why am I still here? Anyways, as Dr. Visser and I were talking, he told me that my results were sent to his office instead of the hospital. And from what I understood from our conversation, if they had been sent to the hospital, he would have gotten them on Tuesday and he would have fought to have me back. So I dealt with a pretty big headache yesterday and Wednesday, because I didn't have my glasses. So yeah. I got better care yesterday in an hour in my own home hospital than I did the entire time I was at St. B's. Now, I will say there's 2 healthcare aides and they didn't have name tags, so I can't even give them a shout out. They were amazing. The one came in Wednesday morning and she's like, are we doing breakfast or are we still a little sick? I'm like, no, I'm good. Dawn and Chris went through hell. They both had a lot of their own moments. Dawn really struggled this week. She grew up a lot this week, and I'm not happy about that. But everybody has been super kind to her for the most part. Although her and her bestie apparently aren't talking right now. I don't know. Teenage drama. But, I'm good. I'm home. And I'm okay. Last night was a rough one. My blood pressure was a little high, and I think that was more of all the excitement of the day and coming home, and not having time to decompress and absorb what I had gone through since Sunday. And my nurse last night, Josie, was amazing. And she spent a lot of time with me and talking me through, because you have this. And Dr. Visser, like, chef's kiss to that man. Like, he is so kind, and he takes the time to explain things so that you understand. So remember on that paperwork, Nurse Jan was like, oh, I don't know what that is. That's a doctor thing. So I said, I understand all of this, but what's this? He's like, that, you and I are not in the cath lab. We don't care. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, this part we care about. And he explained it's your heart and the 3 and where it is. And that one half was 99% blocked and the midline was 100% blocked. They put the stent in and he's like, you're fixed. You're good. You're here. And that's the phrase that I have a hard time with. That I'm only the 6%. So anyways, Josie, my nurse, and I last night, I said there's a lot of information out there and I'm a little lost in what are my next steps. So if you've ever gone through a heart attack, feel free to share your own experience in the comments, because a heart attack, especially for women, the symptoms are completely different. That roommate in St. B's, that woman, she worked for 2 days taking Gaviscon. And I'm thinking of my own experience. I'm like, how the hell do you just think that's indigestion or heartburn? She worked for 2 days in the hospital in Dauphin. Yeah. So I had pain. I had pressure. I had a sore neck. And that actually went up into my jaw and into my ear, kind of like an ear infection. I was diaphoretic, which is a fancy word for saying sweaty. I was nauseous. I had a pounding headache. And I had lower back pain. So women. And both arms, tingly, feeling funny, numb, burny. And then Monday night is where I felt like I had fallen, and I hadn't. So if you feel funny, get checked out. Because only 6% survive outside of the hospital. 6%. That's nuts. So that's my story. If you guys are commenting, I don't really see. I see a bunch of you watching, so hello. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something from this, and if there is questions, I will try my best to answer them. So what does life look like now? Dr. Visser explained that after the heart attack that I had, hi Aaron, I now have high blood pressure. I now have high cholesterol. I now have I will be on ASA for the rest of my life. I will be on Plavix, which is my blood thinners, for at least a year. It's up to my GP to continue that. I am off work for the foreseeable future. So low sodium diets, Mediterranean diet, doing increasing your fatty proteins, so like your fishes. So that's gonna be hard for me. I don't like fish. I don't like salmon. But I guess I'm gonna have to get used to it. Chris is excited to go get a cedar plank and do smoked salmon on the barbecue. Now, if you've been following me recently in the last couple of months, I started making my own pantry mixes that are low salt. I actually asked him, I said, why? And he's like, let me tell you, you or most people that have the heart attack that I had, because I said to him, I had no symptoms. I didn't have heartburn. I didn't have indigestion. I didn't even have a headache. I had nothing. I went pee. I came to the kitchen and clutched my chest in pain. And he said most people that have the heart attack I did, the Widowmaker, their only symptom is them dropping dead from this heart attack. He also told me that he had a friend. She was 47 or 48 years old. And Healthy, fit as a fiddle, did all the things, 98% blocked. Heart disease doesn't choose. He said the biggest factors, he's like, you'll be shocked, it's not really diet. Although if you're eating out every single day for every single meal, then yeah, that contributed. We don't. You guys see my videos, I cook a lot. Smoking was a big one. My genetics, because the Panuks are big into the cardiovascular fields. And I believe even the Mislichucks have cardiovascular in there as well, but the Mislichucks have more of the cancer and the diabetes. My Panook side is the high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and cardio stuff. I now have a PRN, take as needed, nitro spray. I have my blood pressure, I have my aspirin for the rest of my life, I have my high cholesterol, I have my Plavix, which is my blood thinners for the next year, for sure. Low sodium, high protein, green leafies, diet. That's not to say that I can't have a small thing, or not that I eat a lot of French fries, but a small thing of French fries. What they're saying is don't go get an extra large double order and consume that. Homemade, one of my hashtags, if you've been watching me for a while, homemade tastes better. Limiting how much salt goes in there, because your salt intake, I believe, is only supposed to be a teaspoon a day for sodium. So once I'm feeling better and don't get so tired out, I will have to start making some more of my own snacks, which, again, homemade tastes better. And the other thing is get moving. 15 minutes a day. Now, I have to start off slow because I get very, very tired very, very quickly. Even walking from the back of my house to here, I needed to take a beat before I came live. But Dawn and Chris are out on a squirrel job. And in Carberry, actually. And then they'll be back home. So yeah. Yeah. But according to the doctor, my genetics and smoking caused this. It wasn't my diet. It was smoking. And genetics. So, I will be following up. We apparently have a cardiac nurse for outpatient, and from the sounds of it, she'll probably contact me next week, and go through, my plan going forward. This was a wake-up call for a lot of us. So I hope you continue to follow along with the well-worn apron, because I'm taking you guys along for it. Everybody keeps saying I'm so strong. I have no choice. We don't learn about this for women in school. We don't. This is also my new Bible. It is Living Well with Heart Disease. And I know we all know the signs for FAST, for stroke, face, arm, speech, and time. But learn the signs of a heart attack. Chest discomfort, pressure, squeezing, fullness, pain, burning, or heaviness. Sweating, upper body discomfort, neck, jaw, shoulders, arms, back, nausea, shortness of breath, and lightheadedness. For both men and women, the most common heart attack sign is chest pain or discomfort. However, women can experience a heart attack without chest pain. So, Know your signs. Get checked out. Oh, here's a simple. Eating more oatmeal. It even says here, find an eating plan that works for you. There's the DASH diet. You can go to heartandstroke.ca/dash. They even say the Mediterranean diet at icm-mhi.org/en. So I'll post those in the comments if you want to learn more. But yeah. Oh, there's even some exercises. But there you go. I hope you guys learned something from my experience. Because I'm all about education, and yeah. The more you know, the more you grow. So I'll talk to you guys later. Love you. Shut up.